Margaret Kuhlman of Soul Astrology. This new moon is in Pisces, and the chart shows us how it stands between Neptune and Chiron. There is something about Pisces that makes it very difficult to talk about it. The vastness of all that is, the vastness of potential, all accessible because of no boundaries anywhere. And yet the act of speech requires defining things, and every definition is a boundary between the thing defined and the things that it is not. The very fact of physical existence is full of boundaries. So in a sense, Pisces has nothing to do with the physical world. And yet, of course, it's there as part of our zodiac experience. So perhaps it is that call to remember that all is one in reality. How to feel oneness when my body is surrounded by skin and I'm sitting in a chair which is definitely not my desk or my computer. I think this is the dilemma, the human predicament, that the glory of oneness, the sweet peace, bliss, love that is spirit, is what is everything that is, available to us by our very life. And yet we persistently turn away from it and focus on the boundaries, making of them barriers to what else is there. With Chiron so close to this new moon, we are likely to find ourselves facing this human predicament this month, this difficulty of being fully in touch with the joy of life, in touch with the suffering of all humanity, that perhaps this month is about focusing on how it is that humanity suffers, and experiencing compassion for that with the trines down to Jupiter in Cancer, a compassion for the human family. And of course, in our more circumscribed lives, hopefully compassion for our own families, for family members, and perhaps the healing of rifts that have occurred. That the new moon this month is focusing us on paying attention to any boundary that has become a barrier, misunderstandings that have not been addressed, puzzlement about how can another person be that way without actually asking them. It's about allowing ourselves to be closer, to actually empathize with the emotions of those closest to us, which often feels quite a dangerous thing to do, and is, in a way, if we forget our own personality structure, our own viewpoint. Pisces is the call to appreciate the million viewpoints there must be, and knowing that ours is only one of them. That call to individuality would be shown by Uranus in Aries, and in this chart it's doubly squared by Jupiter and by Pluto. Perhaps a more astrological way of putting that would be to say that Jupiter is squaring the Uranian square to Pluto, which tends to mean that we go a bit over the top with it, and that square being a kind of vacillation between the magnitude of our responsibility as human beings and our need to assert our own selves, that we flip between the two. There's more of that shown in the chart, so it's obviously an important issue this month. By Venus in Capricorn squaring Mars in Libra on the North Node. Our sense of responsibility in relationship, and how that can often mean that we feel responsible for how somebody else is feeling, which is so far from the perhaps correct way of experiencing responsibility. And Mars in Libra, interestingly, just after the new moon, Mars is retrograde in Libra. So whereas it hesitates to act in Libra anyway, there is an even greater feeling that perhaps we shouldn't be acting. Second thoughts, as it were. I'm having another look, maybe feeling even a bit ambivalent about actions we may have taken, decisions we may have made. This happens at the same time as Mercury goes direct in Aquarius. So our thinking is absolutely ready to approach the truth. And yet there is that square to Saturn from Mercury, suggesting that it's actually quite difficult to separate ourselves from all those turbulent emotions that we've been discovering, all the connections that have nothing to do with logic. And there's the mind trying to break free of all of that and see the thing in a logical sort of pattern, as a process that can be described from observation, which in some ways it can. Square relationships in astrology don't mean that the planets can't work together. It just means that at first glance they have difficulty. The difficulties that a square presents us with, if we work with it, stay with the problem, working at it, bring about a change in us, a growth that we would not have made without the difficulty. So perhaps the square between the Mars and Venus, apart from representing the male and female having a spot of bother in relating, is suggesting that we take responsibility for what is really ours, which is our own state of being, how we are feeling, our reaction patterns, and allowing other people to have theirs, and within that, and within the sharing of it honestly, finding a place of balance, a place of harmony, where opposites can be complementary and work together for the well-being of the whole. The nodes of the moon have been focusing us from Taurus towards Scorpio for the last year and 3/4, and have just gone into the direction from Aries to Libra. So having discovered that we do all have common roots in humanity, we all are capable of suffering from exactly the same feelings, given the situation, and learning how to be with empathy, we are now shifting into being that, but being our own unique version of it, the Aries, and having the courage of our position and our gifts to work towards universal harmony. The Mars retrograding at that point will be hopefully assisting us to hesitate before we take action, because Aries has a tendency to act too fast without properly having appreciated what's really there. So this is our call for the whole of humanity, but for each of us individually, to take account of what's actually there before we act, so that our action is a response rather than a reaction to having been triggered. By the time we get to the full moon, I think we will be finding it easier to define what's going on, easier to see the needs. The moon will be in Virgo, opposite the Pisces sun, and sextiling Saturn, which trines the sun at that point. So from the full moon on the 16th of March, we should find it easier to know what needs to be done. The last part of the month has Mercury in Pisces, moving across Neptune and Chiron, so speaking from a much more empathic and global sense of being. There is more about all this written in the New Moon Letter, which will be on my website. Let your shoulders rest down, allowing your neck to lift, and hold your head balanced and free. Feel the center of your brow just above the line of your eyebrows. Allow a stream of energy or golden light to enter your head and stream down your spine from neck to base. This is your strength, your staff to ease your climb up the mountain. For in truth, this life you are not a dreamer, nor are you the vast and only oneness. You are spirit as human, with the quest of awakening the earth to the love of which it is made. Be your whole being, moment by moment, and share with those around you on all levels, for you are not alone.